Today I'm really covering 5 main points. What is web analytics? What does it mean? Why is it important? The ABCs of Google Analytics, breaking it down into 3 key areas for you, just so you understand how it's set up for you. 5 reports to know. These are reports that even after doing it for so many years, I still go back to these first to kind of get a good gauge of where maybe a client is at on their website, what's happening. A digital measurement plan, I'm going to talk a little bit about that and resources, but I put this meme here because this is pretty common, right? Who has Google Analytics on their website and they look at it right now? Who feels 100% confident they know what they're doing in there? Yeah, the hands go down really fast, right? Who's gotten lost? They maybe say, I'm going to look at it for 15 minutes, and then an hour later, like, I don't know what I just looked at, but I looked at it a lot. Yeah, it happens. And it often happens because we don't have a plan, right? We don't really know what we're looking for. We're just looking for something that maybe jumps out at us and says, oh, this is really cool. I would love to just, shout it out, but, what are some things that you thought about when you saw this topic that you came here to learn? Anybody?
How to understand what we're looking at.
How to understand what you're looking at, okay. Yeah, that's a common one. You have a set mind set pages in mind that you're like, I want them to go to this. Maybe they're not, or maybe they are, and you want to know why. Anything else?
There are sections in analytics that you can set up with campaigns.
Yeah.
This is like that, but I think a lot of people understand.
Yeah, campaigns. Campaigns are a big thing. We won't go too much into those, but I will touch in on them, on where you can start seeing those campaigns kind of manifest themselves in your analytics, but definitely campaigns is one. One that I commonly hear is, I want to be able to tell my boss what we're doing is working, right? That's a common one. How do you make reports and how do you share that information to tell them this is working? So we're going to kind of touch on all of those things, and I'll definitely do my best to tie into them as we go along for you. But what is web analytics? Google is super smart, so they just throw everything at you to show how smart they are, but this definition is complicated. They say it's the analysis of qualitative and quantitative data, and from your business in competition to drive a continual improvement of the blah, 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 blah. I'm sure you can read, but this is a lot. So when you look at that, you're like, yeah, I want to jump into that, right? That's super easy. I break it down for you. In other words, web analytics is a study of on and off-site behavior. So what's going on your website, what's going on off your website, and how they're getting to your website in order to improve user experience and reach your business goals. You're looking at analytics, or you should take the approach at analytics at looking at, well, how are people behaving here? How are they getting here? And are they doing what we need them to do or what they want to do? And are we aligning that with our goals? A lot of times websites and analytics are installed and they don't talk about their goals for their business. They say, we need a website because people are online. They get that website up. It looks beautiful, but it doesn't actually tie into their business processes. So my approach with analytics is, let's look at what your business goal is. If it's to sell products online, if it's to generate leads, is it to blog, whatever it is, and let's tie that all together and make sure that we have reports that actually report on that for you. Does that make sense? Is this definition easier? What's happening on and off the site, and are we going to be able to improve user experience? So, real basic definition, Google breaks down its data really into 2 categories, dimensions and metrics. Dimensions are the who and the what. It describes something about the user. It describes that they may be from the search engine. They may be from social media. They may be from another website, or maybe they use this browser, or maybe they're from Anderson or Muncie, or if you sometimes come across, sometimes you're like, I'm just a business in Anderson. Why do I have so much traffic from Russia? It tells you that stuff. That's the what, it's the who. The metrics are actually the numbers. It tells you how many. It tells you percentages. It tells you these things. So all the reports in Google Analytics are broken down like that. You have one side that's dimensions, telling you who and what's happening. And the other side are numbers. Does that make sense? It tells you how many. Any questions there? And if I go too fast, please pause me. So let's start on the ABCs. So A, for acquisition. How are people finding your website? This, if you log into Google Analytics right now and you scroll down the left-hand side, you'll notice their menu is broken up in these categories. Acquisition, and it has a list of reports that you can pull automatically that they provide to you. Key metrics you're going to look for is, visits. How many visits? How many of them are new? People that haven't been to your site either for 90 days or more, or never been to your website. And then unique visitors. That is important as well. Someone that might come back to your site 2 or 3 times during that time. Well, you want to kind of gauge that against unique people. I could come to your website 3 times, so I'm still only one person, right? You want to know how many people, sets of eyeballs, came to your site. So those are some of the key metrics that you can find in acquisition that I think are most important. Because what you're looking for with acquisition is really, where did they come from? We'll get into what did they do when they get there, but in acquisition, you're just figuring out, where are they coming from? Are they coming from, they're typing the address in your browser? Are they doing a search, finding you, coming to you? Did you share something on social media that got some attention and they clicked and they came to your website? You're looking to answer some of those questions. And I put some of these questions on there for you. So, you want to ask things like, where's the majority of the traffic coming from? Most of the time, you'll find it's search. It's the biggest, most of the time. Are my visitors new or repeat visitors? You can find that out in acquisition. So are they people that are coming regularly, or are they people, you're getting a very slim margin of repeat, and it's mostly new all the time. That's important to know, because if you're trying to hit a market and trying to get people to come back and they're not doing that, then you can start questioning and finding answers on why aren't people coming back, which is off-site behavior, right? You're trying to get them to come on-site. Are my social media efforts getting me traffic? This is a big one. Everyone talks about ROI in social media. How do I measure what I'm doing on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all of these places? How do I measure that they're actually getting me anything, right? You can see where they came from and see, this was from Facebook. And then, once you start marrying things, I don't want to get into Facebook insights today, but you can start figuring out, well, these posts did this, and it's working. Our search engine sending me traffic, that tends to be the #1 traffic source. But what are the keywords people are using? Now Google, they keep changing things up on us. About 3 or 4 years ago, we could go into Google Analytics and see the keywords. Now Google, and now Bing is following suit. Now they just say not provided. Has anybody seen that before? And then you're like, what on earth? Like, is everyone typing not provided? No. But there are ways you can get into that, and I can definitely talk to you about that, but there are ways to get around that and figure that out. But you do want to ask that question. Well, if they're finding me through search, if that's the bulk of my traffic, what are they searching for? Is it what I want them to? Any questions on acquisition? Okay. So B, behavior. How are people using your site? You're looking at bounce rate. You're looking at pages per visit. You're looking at average visit duration. That means how long from the time they showed up on your website did they stay before they kind of left and Google can't see them anymore. And then events. Events take a little bit of configuration to do, but they can be very powerful reporting tools. So who has PDFs on their site? Yeah, some of us have PDFs on our site. Those are verifiably by default, a black hole of data, because you can't tell how many people clicked on those PDFs by default. How many people are looking at those? Are they even useful? You can use things like events to say, someone clicked on this PDF, I want to track that. And Google will start telling you, well, you had 45 clicks to this PDF. So events can be very powerful. Does take configuration, does take planning, but events are a very big part of behavior. You want to know. You also will look at things like, top landing pages and stuff, and we'll get into that because that's one of the reports, but you'll want to know, what pages are they coming in on my site? Is it my home page? Is it blog posts? Is it a services page? Or maybe it's a lead generation form you have on your site? Whatever it is, you want to know which pages are drawing them to your content. So things to ask when you're looking at behavior, what are the top landing pages on my site? See, I was ahead of myself a little bit. Is this how I want users to use my site? That's a big question. We all have in mind, this is what we want them to do, right? I built this awesome site. It should be so easy. And how many times have we looked at their reports and go, well, they're not doing that. They're doing something else. I really wanted them to do this, but they're not doing that. Now you ask yourself, is this how I want them to use this site? No. Okay, well then how can we make some adjustments to the user experience to get them there? What is the most popular content on my site? If you have a blog on your site, we want to know that, right? What blog content is bringing people in, or they're reading and sharing and things like that? And what pages are highly popular but have high bounce rates? I call these lost opportunity pages. There is a report I often run on one of my blogs that I look for that. I look for, okay, this page had, this blog post was posted 4 months ago, but it's still one of the top 5 blog posts in traffic every month. It's a consistent, evergreen post that just stays, and it's trustful, and it always gets people here. But what I look at is, how high is that bounce rate and average time on page? Because if I'm getting 400 or 500 visits or views on that post, but the average time on page is maybe 10 seconds, I know they're not reading that. So then I look at that and go, okay, well, it's popular, people want that content, but maybe it's not what they expected. So what can I tweak on that blog post to maybe draw people in and keep them a little longer to get them to read it? You look for those things because you want to be able to, stick in their mind, right? You want to stick in their mind. And so if tons of people are coming and looking at it, but they're not reading it, or they're leaving right away, or not clicking through, then maybe it's a lost opportunity. You had a chance, and you're losing a lot of possible traction. Does that make sense? Okay. C for conversions. How is your site fulfilling your marketing objectives? You have to think about that. And C for conversions is the most work you'll probably ever have to do in Google Analytics, because you have to think about what do you want them to do, and you have to configure Google Analytics to track those conversions. They're labeled as goals in Google Analytics. Have we heard of those? Have you guys seen those? Has anyone set up a goal in Google Analytics? Yeah. Most people don't, because it takes planning and takes time, and we're all busy. And wouldn't it be nice if Google can just crawl our site and tell us, you wanted them to do this, so we just made it that way. It doesn't happen, unfortunately, so we have to set those up. But what you're looking at in conversion are goals, conversion rate, how many people saw this opportunity versus how many people did it. If it's a form, or maybe it is a PDF download, how many people came to the page, saw that they could download it, but actually did it? That's a conversion, and that's a conversion rate. E-commerce metrics, if you have an e-commerce store online, Google Analytics has this huge section that is actually pretty easy to turn on that will put numbers and values to your analytics. I have a client that sells lights online, and we can actually see how many people viewed a product, how many people actually bought the product, and put a dollar amount to his analytics now. We can say, well, we spent this much to get people to see this product, and then this is how many people that bought it. Here's your ROI. You can do that in analytics, and that's a really great opportunity for someone like me with a client to show ROI. But if you have a boss that's like, what are we doing, and is it working? You can put these things in there and maybe give them a dollar amount, because what speaks louder than money, and say it's working, or maybe it's not, and let's tweak it. And then goal value. Again, you can put a dollar amount. So if you have a lead generation form, a contact form that in general it turns into a deal of this value, you can put a value to that form. So every time someone fills that out, you can say that's worth $150. I know on average that's worth this, so then my analytics can spit that back out to me. Does that make sense? So questions to ask yourself when you're looking at conversions, which acquisition channels from A are providing the highest ROI or value? You can look down some reports, and one of them I will show you. You can say search engines are the top channel that gets people to do this. Or maybe social media. Maybe you had a campaign that you were raising funds and you did it all through social media. You can measure that and say, well, this many people came from social media, this many people completed it, this is the conversion rate for social media. Or if you're doing kind of a multi-channel campaign, you got some ads on Google, pay-per-click, which are often labeled as a campaign, I think you mentioned before, or search engines or social media, and you can kind of compare all of them and say, well, this campaign, we had this message, and this was the best channel for us. So next time we do a similar campaign, we're going to put our focus here, because we know people respond here. Our audience responds here. Is this channel campaign keyword sending me high quality traffic? If you get 1,000 clicks from an ad that you pay for, so that's probably pretty expensive, right? Because you spend anywhere from a couple dollars to $20 per click with Google. But if you get 1,000 of those and one person converts and it makes you maybe $200, wow, you just spent $2,000 and 1 out of 1,000 completed it. Well, that's not high quality traffic, right? So then we got to look at, okay, maybe we rewrite the ad. Maybe change people's expectations or make their expectations clearer. So then hopefully we raise that conversion rate up. So then maybe out of 1,000 next time, 100 do it. Now you made some money. So you gotta look at that and say, is this quality of traffic where I want it to be? How can we do a better job getting visitors to take action? This is kind of fun because that's all about user experience and optimization, right? It's all about, maybe you have a blue button on your home page and it's not doing it for you. A couple months go by, you're kind of getting bummed, no one's doing what you want them to do. Maybe change the button to red and measure that for another month or two and see if just simple tweaks can improve that for you. And that's the whole continual improvement Google talks about, improving user experience, making it a little more obvious maybe for them that that's what they really need to do. And for e-commerce, what are my most popular products and which sell the best? Look at that and say, I'm putting all of my heart and soul in this product, it's not working, but this one, it's doing amazing. Maybe we can lift this one up a little bit or change this one and kind of attack our weaknesses or just play to our strengths. You never know, but you want to ask those questions when you're looking at those reports. Do you find these questions helpful? Good. Now I've been told that they will be put into the video, but I also do put this up on SlideShare, and I can share the link, and I'll share it to that hashtag so you guys can find it. So if you ever want to kind of come back to this and look at it, absolutely it'll be online for you. I should have mentioned that earlier, but like my wife says, I just keep going on and doing stuff. What, Peggy?
Great info so far. Some people might not know how to get on the SlideShare.
Oh, that's true. So SlideShare, I'll be providing a link, but who's used SlideShare or went to SlideShare before? SlideShare basically takes PowerPoint presentations and puts them online for you. I will have it also in the BC Digital Marketing blog, so you can just go to the website and then click and watch. And then you can control how fast you go through it or which slide to jump to and all that. So that's all in there. It'll be just via a link for you.
It's a really powerful tool.
Yes, it can be, absolutely, especially from a marketing and a personal branding. If you do a lot of presentations, you can do a lot of stuff. So I'm going to talk about 5.
I'll put the links on the website as well.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm going to talk about 5 reports to start with, to know and understand. We'll get a little bit into conversions because, like I said, you have to kind of configure Google Analytics to track those. But these first 4, you can go in today and go and look and see what the reports are telling you and what's going on, assuming you have analytics installed. So acquisition and overview, blew up this big screenshot. I'm going to kind of point to some things for you. But the acquisition overview, if you look in the menu here, there's acquisition, there's behavior and conversions, ABCs. And then you can see there's a bunch of reports, and it kind of keeps going and going. You can go in forever. It's a rabbit hole. But this acquisition overview kind of touches almost on everything I just talked about. Because if you look at it, top channels, social, organic, direct, which means they typed it in their browser. Referral, they came from another website. Email, if you have an email campaign, email marketing, with proper settings, you can get in there and find it. Sessions, how many sessions came through. Sessions are visits, by the way. It used to be labeled visits in Google Analytics. Now it's sessions. Again, Google's super smart, but doesn't know how to make everything user-friendly, I think. But then over here is conversions. So contact form maybe or whatever. How often does it happen? I had one really awesome day. And then the rest were kind of, whatever. Happens. And that generally happens, though, with like general contact forms. Who finds their contact form maybe less than inspiring and people tend to not fill it out and maybe just call you? Or email you directly if they see a mail to link, So that one happens to be a contact form goal. I don't get contacted every day, I'll admit, but I almost get most of my people to contact me through social media. Hey, Brandon, heard you do this. I'd like to talk to you about it. So I have other ways to kind of measure, but I do measure that in case someone does fill it out. All those channels that I mentioned over here, these are the dimensions, by the way. Dimension right here. Social, organic search, direct, referral. Now, I say organics, typically you're top 1, right? Well, social's first here. What happened was a blog post I had somebody that I've been friends with a long time. I've worked with him for a long time. He wrote a guest post on my blog for BC Digital Marketing, and I shared it. He shared it. Several of our connected friends shared it, and then all of a sudden that blog post kind of blew up. So for the time period that I kind of scrunched this report down for you, by the way, you can change the time period that you're looking at. So you can look at last month, last week, last year. You can change all that. But for the time period that I had, social actually won out because all this viral action that people took was rather unexpected, but I'm not going to complain because that's still people to the site and reading that content. But you can look at, okay, well, social, they had 59 sessions. About 70% were new, and here's kind of a graph to kind of show that. 112 new users. You got 67% bounce rate from social, which is not uncommon for blogs. Blogs tend to have a little bit of higher bounce rate because most of the time they don't keep clicking and keep reading unless they really love you. And that's, 5% of probably your audience you'll ever touch. And that's being generous. But over here, again, acquisition, A, behavior, B, C, conversion. Conversion actually shows me, well, so the people that did the contact form, they came from organic search. So now I know those people were searching for services that I had, reached out to me, or looked me up directly or BC Digital Marketing up directly, found me, filled out that form. It wasn't through a social media post. It wasn't through someone typing in directly. Wasn't through any one of these channels. Organic for me was the top converting thing. And 4% of all the traffic that came through organic converted when they got to that page. Does that make sense? Sure.
How does analytics define new user?
New user, so what analytics looks at is cookies get installed. on their browser when they come to your website if you have analytics installed. And what it looks at is, okay, is that cookie there? If that cookie's not there, they say this person's never been here before, so that's a new user. It can happen to repeat users if maybe they came to your site 3 or 4 or 5, 6 months ago, haven't been back, and they come back, then Google might say, well, they haven't been here in the last 3 months, so we'll count them as new too. But that's how they get marked as new. So Google will look at that and say, yeah, they've been to this site in the last, I think 60 days is the default. You can kind of change that, but that's how they figured that out. It's a good question. Any questions on how this report's laid out, though? Do you see why this is like pretty useful? Out of the box, you can just kind of go, oh, cool, I know what's going on my site. With the exception of conversions, because you have to set that up. Next report is source and medium. This gets into a little more detail about where people are coming from. So you saw the channel breakdown, search engines, direct, referrals. That's still very general. What if you want to know more about that? I like to look at the source medium because it, again, dimensions right here is the source and medium. Google organic. So organic search from Google was the top one as far as one source. And I can see exactly how everyone behaved, number of conversions. If you do apply value, there's where the dollars come in. Have people seen dollars in the analytics and said, why is this in here? That's why. Direct or none, someone typed it in. Probably family and friends for me, to be honest. But then you'll see a ton of different ones like m.facebook.com. That's somebody on their mobile Facebook. On their phone, they were on Facebook, they clicked on a link, they came over. Plus.url.google.com. So that's Google Plus. It still does stuff. Don't forget it. Facebook.com. So someone was on their desktop, saw a link, clicked on it, came over. So you can start seeing a real true breakdown. And then, BrandonCopperdoll.com. So somebody read my personal blog, saw, what's BC Digital Marketing? Clicked over from BrandonCopperdoll.com, and now I know, hey, my own personal website's doing stuff for me. It's getting me people here. And this is very useful if you have a product or a service and other people are blogging about similar things in your industry and you develop a relationship with them. Maybe they blog about you or one of your products, link back to you in some way. You can start seeing maybe that value of that relationship. You can be like, this blogger is getting me traffic. I didn't do anything. This is awesome. Did you have a question?
This report, what's the title?
Sorry, it's under acquisition, and it's on source and medium is the name. But the report goes on, but I wanted to give you that top screenshot. And then you got that pretty line graph that shows kind of your traffic over the last period. Any questions on this, how this is laid out? Now, what I would always suggest is start small. Start with the top 10. It's very easy to, 55 results. I want to see all 55 websites. Most of those will probably be one. So maybe they're not as high value for you. Start with the ones that are high value for you. Okay, Google, we need to keep working on our SEO and our search presence, our search marketing. Direct, none. Maybe you have brochures and flyers out that have your URL that they would read, type it in, now they're here. Email or whatever. You're looking for the ones that are doing really well for you, so I can't forget to do that. Does that make sense? Yeah, Diana.
You mentioned the m.facebook, that was mobile Facebook, and then you said some different ones. If you don't know, like I've looked at that sometimes, I have no idea what this means. Is there a place where you can actually go and say, type that in and find out what m.facebook.com, what it's talking about, that it's people using their mobile? Or do you just have to know it, and I'm glad I'm here because you just told me. How does that work?
Well, I will tell you, Facebook is notoriously bad. So m.facebook is here. There's a facebook.com, and I know you probably can't see all these details back there. But then there's also an l.facebook.com. Facebook has all these subdomains and ways they send traffic to places. Some of it's research, looking it up. You can usually Google and say, what is this URL? And someone's answered it. I've done that a lot, especially battling referral spam. We probably, it's gotten really bad lately, but who's seen things like bestseooffer.com in their source, medium, and acquisitions? Referral spam. It's the worst because it skews everything, right? Because they give you empty data. Well, there's some that are cleverly named. So sometimes I just do a search. What is this domain? I don't go to the domain. I just say, what is blank? In Google, and someone's probably already reported, have you seen these? Total spam, get them out of your reports. So a lot of times if you're not sure, just default to looking it up. Good question though, because that is a constant struggle for analytics people, is battling that stuff. Because it seems like once you get one, another 3 pop up.
And then filtering out things you don't want to see in the future is helpful.
Yes, you can absolutely do that. I left that part out here knowing that some of us are probably beginners. But yes, you can actually create filters that will filter stuff like that out for you. You can create filters also. So if you have a big office, this happens a lot on universities, hospitals, and things like that. People make your website their homepage. Have people seen that happen? Might even happen here at the library. And so every time they open up their browser, Google's like, hey, we got a new person. And it's just the employee back for the 3rd time today kind of thing. You can create a filter that will say, well, any traffic from within the library, leave them out of this report. And any traffic from the library, only put them in this report. So then maybe I can see how people are using the website from within the building, but how are people using it when they're not here? And those people are probably more the ones that you're targeting more than anything. So that is a very good point. But yes, you do have to configure and probably do a little bit of research to kind of figure out how to do it well and do it right. Which, you know what, after we get through this, I'll kind of show you some tricks to that too. All right. My computer popped something up, so then I got screwy. So landing pages. Landing pages, they're no different than your standard everyday pages you have on your website. But what's classified as a landing page to Google is when they came to your website and the first place they showed up, this was the page they showed up on. So if they searched for something and Google served up maybe a service page or a product or something, and they clicked on that and landed on that product page, not your home page, Google's like, that's a landing page because that's how someone got here. So what this report is very useful to do is, you know, if you're running campaigns and you're putting a lot of time and effort into SEO and you're trying to do all these things, you can find, or blogging, you can find out what your top are. So like here's that blog post that was a guest post. It's number 2. And it's 34. Number 1's 45. So it came close to getting to the home page here. If it's just a slash, that's your home page. If you've seen that and wondered, what is a slash? That's your home page. But if you have a strong content marketing strategy and you're doing a lot of blogging and you're doing a lot of pay-per-click ads, odds are you're not sending them to your homepage, you're sending them to blogs and white papers and lead generation. This is where you're going to find out if that's working. Are people going to those? You know, if you have a blog and you have those things, your homepage should not be number 1. You're hoping that the homepage starts kind of falling behind those other ones that you're kind of pushing out there. That's why you look at this. And I often look at this first with clients just to say, all right, well, we know how people are finding you through acquisition. How are people getting there? What are they doing once they get there? And where are they coming in at? What's the door? So then we can talk about, well, is that what you want? Is that what you're trying to do? Well, no, I've been running this campaign for weeks and I've been trying to get people here. They're just not responding. Cool, let's figure out what's going on there. Any questions on what this is? This stuff pretty much stays the same from report to report. It's this stuff that changes.
What about the not set, number 5 there? Do you have any idea what that is? Because I've got that showing up a couple times in mine.
Yeah, not set, I have found, often happens in 404 situations, unless you configure. I want to know what people did to get a 404. If Google can't figure out what the page is, and 404s are pretty common. Google will be like, not set, I don't know. I just don't know. You can also filter that out. But if you're looking at tracking some things, now the good news is, not set, they didn't get scared and run because they stayed for a while. So I know they did something. But yeah, when Google can't figure it out, maybe your analytics is either set up wrong or it's like a 404 type situation, they'll put not set. They'll say, I saw someone come here, but I don't know exactly where they went. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those little quirks that you get with data. This is important too, because once you have a good understanding where people are coming from, there's later reports you can do to say, okay, well, what did they do next? Well, they read the blog post. Where did they go next? Did they go to services? Did they learn more about me? You can look at, what did they do next? But you got to know where they started to kind of see that. That was a good question, though. Because Google does that all the time. Not provided, not set, not, we don't know, none.
I don't have a single keyword that shows up in my report. It's all not set.
Yeah, and I'll show you and I'll talk about that. All pages. All pages says, okay, I don't care where they came in from. What is your most popular content? What do people view the most? And this is very useful when I talked about looking for pages that have high traffic and high bounce rate. Because you're looking for that lost opportunity, right? So you look at, okay, well, the home page gets the most views, but it also is the highest, landing page, so that's kind of expected, right? But, the blog post, there were 35 visits that landed there, but 49 total page views, which means they may have started somewhere else and came to this eventually. Does that make sense? But what we're looking at with these pages and all pages report is, again, what is your top performing content? Try not to go down the rabbit hole and say, well, I have 200 pages listed here. I want to know all of them, because most of them will probably end up being a 1. You want to try to focus on what's working and then get to what's not. Maybe you wanted one of those single page view pages to do better, but start where your strengths are and then grow from there. But what you're looking at is page views, the unique page views. So unique page views is, during their session, did they visit it more than once? Maybe. So we'll just track the first one, and that's a unique page view, and we won't track anymore. Average time on page, is that working well for you? That blog post had an average of 8 minutes and 23 seconds, so I know people read that thing. Either that or they got up and got coffee and walked away and forgot that it was on that page, but I'm hoping they actually read that thing. Entrances, you'll see that. Again, it's kind of like landing page. They'll tell you, you had 49 page views, but 34 entrances. People landed there. Bounce rate, 72%. Again, blog posts tend to have a higher bounce rate. I think Anderson Digital Media Circle shared our blog post on what is bounce rate. Bounce rate is completely contextual. You can't look at this and go, well, 72%, that's not good for every page. Depends what the page's goal was. You have to kind of think about that. If you look at a page and it's got 72%, before you freak out, look at that page and go, yeah, I didn't really have a call to action on there. That's not a big deal. You have to look at it in context. And then you can look at percent exit and page value. Again, you can set value on pages. Most of the time, you don't do that unless you got kind of like an e-commerce store, something that has a dollar amount tagged to it. Any questions here? It just lists them in order. Any page, it doesn't matter where they came from. Just what is your best content on the site? Any questions? No? So conversions and goals. So I start with overview. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with goals. You can do like funnels, so you can kind of see like where people are going before they finally fill out that form. You can set all that up when you create the goal. This one, I didn't really have a funnel. It's just one contact form. They could come from anywhere to go fill that out. I'm not really worried about that. Where funnels are very useful is maybe it's a multi-step form. I know universities have this a lot where, to apply to the college, you got to go through 3 or 4 pages of, I got to fill out this information before you're finally done. So then maybe you create a funnel, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and then you can see maybe a lot of people leave after page 2. Shopping carts are another good example. Maybe a lot of people go into the cart, but they never complete the buying process. Well, let's figure out why. Well, maybe the page where it's asking for billing information is too long or too complicated. That gives you a chance to improve it, right? You can go, that's where people are leaving, so let's fix that and then improve that. So there's a lot of cool things you can do if you click on goals, but you won't be able to do them until you create your first goal. Creating a goal is very simple. You can create it to where if they go to a page, that's a goal. Great. You can create a goal. If they're on the site for more than 3 minutes, that's a goal. Maybe a video and stuff, and the goal is to get them engaged. And you know if they're spending multiple minutes there, they're probably watching that video. You can create a goal for virtually anything. So you just got to decide what is the purpose of my website? What do I want them to do? And then tell Google what that is. But the way to read this report is it will tell you how many goal sessions you had. If you had a value, it will give you a value. It will tell you your conversion rate, how many people saw the opportunity to do the goal but didn't, or actually did. Abandonment rate, that's for if you have a funnel. It'll tell you how many people abandoned at some point. And then how many completions or conversions. It will list, location, so it's all on /contact. That's where my contact form is. But if you have a goal that might be reached from multiple places, maybe a goal is to download a PDF and you pushed it out to where it's like on every page, then it can tell you what page they were on when they clicked on that PDF. That's where that's useful. Because then you can find out maybe these 2 pages always get people to do that PDF. Always do. So let's figure out why that page is way better than the rest. And then maybe improve the rest. And maybe improve how many people are looking at it. You can also go to source medium. You looked at an acquisition, it told you, search gave me my contact submissions in this case. You can see that from this report as well, just by clicking on source medium. But the purpose of this really is, looking at acquisition and looking at behavior is great. But why does the website exist, and is it accomplishing that? And that's where you get that information, is under conversions, under goals. Does that make sense? Any questions there? How am I on time? Looks like a few minutes. So I'll talk really quickly about a digital measurement plan. This is what I urge you to do when we're finished today. Create a digital measurement plan. I'll show you the 5 steps. But it will help you figure out what reports you really need to look at or create. Google lets you create dashboards, which takes all those spreadsheet-looking reports I showed you and lets you maybe visualize them a little more and just maybe pick and choose the ones you want and put it on one place, which is really nice. But you can't do that if you don't know what you're looking for, right? So I highly recommend a digital measurement plan. These are the 5 steps. The most important, at the very least, are the first 2. 1, what are your business objectives? Again, why does this website exist? What do we want them to do? Answer that question. Is it to buy a product? Is it education? Is it come to my store? Could be as simple as that. I want the website to be able to send people to my store, give them reason to come to my store. Identify website goals for each objective. So you might say, well, it's to generate leads for my business, for my salespeople. Well, then what are the goals for that? Well, we have a contact form, we do white papers, we do these things to try to reach that. So you want to kind of start breaking down how do you get to that objective. Is everybody still with me? Next is choose key performance indicators, or you'll hear KPI. Key performance indicators are things that will tell you, or metrics that will tell you if you're reaching that goal. So if maybe a goal is, I just need to increase my traffic by 20% because I'm blogging and I need more eyes on me. So maybe a key performance indicator, you're going to look at, okay, well, We want search traffic to go up. We want unique users to go up. You're looking for those specific things that will tell you if you're reaching that goal. Or, really simple, if it's a contact form, I just want people to fill it out. So then you know I got to create that goal in the system. So I know people are filling it out. Because how many of our forms either go to a database or just send you an email in your daily flood of emails? So then if you try to think back, in the last month I got how many from my website? It's hard to do. It can all be there for you if you take that step to kind of plot that out. 4 and 5 are kind of, now that you got your feet wet and know maybe what the benchmarks are, things that average out for you, then you can start setting targets. We talked about, I want to increase my website traffic by 20%. Look at your past 3 months and say, well, what is my website traffic? Maybe it's 500 visits. And if I increase it to 600, is that an attainable goal by when I want to do it by? So you want to set targets of, I get 5 contact form submissions, maybe I want 8 a month. That's what identifying targets means. You put a place that you want to go. I mean, we all do that, right? We all look at, well, this year I want to increase my gross revenue by X. Do the same thing for your analytics. I want to increase this, because it's a goal, by X. That's identifying a target. And then find valuable segments. Again, this is kind of like a phase 2 thing. What you want to do is then you'll start looking at, I only want to look at return visitors, because maybe return visitors are acting very different than the new ones. Or maybe you want to find out if they are. Maybe you find out it takes someone 3 trips to the website before they do what you wanted them to do. So then you're going to look at return visitors' behavior and then figure out maybe their paths through your website are different. Someone new might kind of fumble around where a return visitor knows your website and they go maybe directly to the prize, which can tell you a couple things. Maybe it's not super clear, but now that they know, they can get there. And maybe if you make it clearer, maybe the new ones will start converting. It gives you an opportunity to just ask, what's happening? What can I do? And that's what analytics really comes down to. What's happening and what can I do about it? Does that make sense? I will also provide a link to a template that takes you through these steps. Okay? A lot easier to share on social media than in here, because it's got a bunch of characters, and who wants to try to write down GYZX324 blah, 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 blah. We don't want to do that. So next steps, what do? Get started. Look at your analytics. Start small. Don't try to come up with this broad scope, overreaching goal and say, I'm going to tackle all of this right now, today. Take one thing and get familiar with it. And I will walk you through some things that I do. Something I could have mentioned is, Google breaks it down to like account, property, view. And the view is where your reports actually are. You can create more views that your analytics will automatically pull into. You don't have to do anything other than create a view. And name that view test. So then you can go in and play with filters, play with goals, see what happens. And then once you kind of get the result you want in your analytics, move it to the one that has all your data. And then it will start tracking it. But the key is to get started. Do something. And don't get to the place where you're like, oh man, I just looked at this for 2 hours. I don't even know what I looked at. It happens. It's happened to me. So get started. Pick something small. Even if it is just creating a goal for your contact form. They have little wizards that kind of suggest what to type in. A lot of times if it's just they've used my contact form, you just maybe go to your website, get the address, copy and paste it right there. And Google will be like, cool, we'll do the rest for you. So just play with it. Don't be afraid. And the way you do that is you go to, when you log in, there will be an admin bar at the top. Click on admin, and then far right, there's goals. Go in there and create it.